Hello, this is Dr. Vanessa R. Brooks. Welcome to my channel, Leadership Rewired. I'm excited today to bring this presentation to you. I want to talk to you, to the credentialed professional women, the high performing women who are all in their heads about how they're going to turn their expertise into a consulting business. Listen, today we're going to talk about the real reason why you cannot figure out what you should be selling. And I need y'all to understand this is the first step. You have to first figure out what you should sell if you're going to be able to sell anything in the marketplace. You absolutely can turn your expertise into an offer that pays. But before you can do that, you really do have to get clear on what it is that you sell. Now, the reason that I'm so passionate about this conversation is because not only have I been in business full time as a consultant myself for 14 years, but I remember the version of me who did not know what she should be selling. And we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to be very transparent and very honest because I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm just here to help you collapse the time that it took me to figure all this out. I wish I had had me 14 years ago when I started my business full time. I wish I'd had access to the resources and the knowledge and the tools and the skills even that I have acquired that help me to run my business efficiently and effectively and also with profitability. And so I'm going to be transparent today. I'm sharing parts of my story in the hopes that it encourages you, inspires you, motivates you, and even activates some momentum in you so that you can get started with your business as soon as possible. Because I know that you are sitting on a business idea that is valuable in the marketplace, but you have to know where to start. And so this is where you start. Let's try to figure out why you don't know what to sell yet and try to help you figure out what you should be selling in the marketplace as a consultant. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to share my slides with you. Hopefully, everything works the way that it's supposed to work. All right, so let's go back to the beginning, 2012, I think it was, when I made the decision to leave my career at social services where I had been working for over 15 years as a supervisor at that point. It was the most stressful job I'd ever heard in my life. And I made the decision to quit my job in 2012 on December 8th, the death anniversary of my mama. I opened the drawer of my desk and I pulled out a resignation letter that I had written a couple of weeks prior. And I got up from my desk and I walked down that long corridor, made that right turn into my director's office and handed her my resignation letter and went on to the house. And I haven't looked back since. However, it was not peaches and cream. Now, here's the thing. I was fully committed to building my business. That wasn't the problem for me. So it wasn't about commitment at all. What it was about was the strategy. The mystery problem for me was I did not have the business strategy and the market strategy and the knowledge of business to be successful in those early years. And so because of that, I suffered needlessly, even though I hired a business coach. And all that business coach did was do my LLC paperwork, got my EIN assigned to me, made me some business cards, gave me some profit loss worksheets, and sent me on my way and paid me. I paid him $5,000 for that. That's another reason why I try to provide, high level, high touch concierge services for my clients. I want them to have a high level experience. I want to give my clients strategic attention. I want to be so present with my clients. Why? Because I didn't have that for me when I reached out to get my first business consultant. So I was committed to building a business. That was not the problem. I just did not understand strategy. I didn't have business strategy. So let's look at the hidden problem. Okay. Um, I wasn't certain what the market valued. All right. I was not clear on what was considered value in the marketplace. And I need us to understand today that expertise without market certainty creates infinite decision loops. Okay. One of the main problems that I dealt with, and probably you too, is I was not able to make good entrepreneur decisions. I wasn't able to make those executive level decisions. Why? Because I didn't have certainty. I didn't have market certainty. And because I didn't have market certainty, all the other decisions that I needed to make in my business suffered because it all really started with market, right? With market certainty. So let's talk about an asset, okay? I want to just give you guys some working definitions so that you really can understand what you should be focusing on in those early stages of building your consulting company. I want you to build a company that is sustainable. Okay. There are too many people out here just building companies off of trends and fads and limited knowledge, and they're not taking the time to do that early research before you build anything. Okay. And you'll hear me say this a couple times today at least. Before you build an offer, you need to do the research part of this thing first. So let's talk about an asset so that you understand what an asset is, okay? And we'll discuss this later on in the slide, but I want to give you some working definitions early so that when we get to these slides, you'll have some of this information, okay? So an asset is the expertise that you have that someone will pay for, okay? Write that down. An asset is the expertise that you have that someone will pay for. More specifically, the asset that you have that a premium buyer will pay for. Because we're going to have to understand we can't sell our assets to everybody. We're looking for premium buyers who are willing to buy the expertise that you have. Okay. Now, we're also talking about, just to go a little bit deeper, when we talk about assets, we're talking about the specific knowledge, the specific experience, the specific methods, and the specific insights that solves a problem that a market has. Okay. And that you can package, price, and deliver repeatedly. One of the things that I was doing, this is a hidden problem. One of the other hidden problems is that I did not have a repeated process in my business. So every time I got a new lead, a new customer lead, you know what I had to do? I had to go think of something to sell to them. So I would pull from here and there and everywhere to try and put an offer together to sell to them because I did not have specific knowledge, specific experience, specific methods, and specific insight that I had pre-packaged and pre-priced that I was able to deliver repeatedly. Okay. That is the slowest way to scale your business. I can promise you, you will not scale your business if you don't have an offer that's on repeat. If you don't create a process, a method around your offer that is repeatable, you're going to waste a lot of time trying to create a new offer every time you get a new client or customer lead. Okay. And so, what I've determined through my own journey and working with hundreds of women at this point is that most credentials who are trying to build their expert based businesses, they skip this step completely. Okay. If you don't have certainty of what is valuable in the market, I promise you, you will always offer the wrong thing. You have to make sure that what you're trying to sell has value in the market. Okay. Now, what exactly is a market? Please write this down. Okay. What is a market? A market is the specific group of people who have the specific problem that your expertise solves. All right, let's say this again. What is the market or a market? A market is the specific people who have the specific problem that your expertise solves. One of the problems that I was dealing with is that I was trying to sell my offer when I didn't have them to the wrong market, to the wrong people. You have to figure out, you have to get clear who are the specific people who have the specific problem that I am looking to solve. Okay. All right. So that's the first thing. Now, here's the other thing. All right. Here's the other thing. Market also includes the specific people who have the money and the motivation to pay to have that problem solved. Okay. I'm going to say it again. A market also includes the specific people who have the money and the motivation to have that specific problem solved. So all of that has to be considered when you're thinking about market value. Okay, because you could have an offer that is valuable in the marketplace in terms of it solving a specific problem. But if you're positioning that offer in front of people who don't have the money or the motivation to have their problem solved, you're still not going to be able to find clients, paying clients. You're still not going to be able to have an offer that pays you. Now, that is something that I was doing. Once I actually had a solid offer, I was still positioning my offer wrong. Okay, so positioning is really important. You have to make sure that you're positioning your offer in front of people who have both the money and the motivation to pay you to solve that specific problem. Because they may have the money to pay you, but they may not have the motivation to pay you. Or they may have the motivation to pay you and not have the money to pay you. When you're talking about market, okay, when you're talking about putting your product or your service rather in front of the right market, they have to have not just a specific problem that you're able to solve, but they have to also have the motivation and the money to pay you to solve that problem. Okay, so if you are out here trying to market to people who have the specific problem that your expertise solves, but don't have the money to pay you, you're going to waste a lot of time and energy doing that. And you're going to lose momentum and you are going to burn out, and you're going to burn out fast. I cannot tell you how many times I burned out as a business owner. It's not because I didn't have a good offer. I burned out because I was trying to sell my offer to people who didn't have the money to pay me, or I was trying to sell my offer to people who didn't have the motivation to pay me. Okay. This is probably the most important thing I'm going to say today. So go back and listen to this part again. All right. All right. So then I went through the testing phase in my business. I need y'all to understand this is not stuff that I was cognizant of when I was doing it. Okay. I was not conscious that I was doing any of this stuff. This is after 14 years of me looking back over my business and reflecting and creating a framework around what I did in my business to get to this level of being able to scale it and be more successful. Okay. So I want to talk about the testing phase because you will likely go through the testing phase if you do not create the market research. Okay. So because I didn't know the value of my offers in the marketplace, I kept testing different versions of my expertise, trying to see what would stick, trying to see what would sell. I started out doing church consulting. That was my very first offer, was church consulting, because I was a pastor. I had built a church from the ground up. I had grown it to, a decent size for the rural community that I lived in. And after I quit my job, what I knew I was able to do at that time was I was able to train leaders. I've always had a gift for training leaders, right? My doctorate degree is in executive leadership. So leadership has always been a natural gift for me and an interest of mine. So my first consulting offer was church consulting. Okay. From there, I did organizational leadership consulting, right? Working with organizations, small business owners, solopreneurs, teaching them different theories around leadership and different leadership models. When that got cold and stale, I went into life coaching certification as part of my leadership consulting. I was certifying life coaches. And remember, these things were sale, but what would happen is whenever they would stop selling, I would move to the next thing, which I'll talk about in a minute. I also did a bunch of workshops on different topics, Bible studies. I did healing programs. I was selling graphic designs at one point in my business, all kind of training programs. So I kept testing different versions of my expertise, and all of these were expertise. But because I had not taken the time to research which one of these had the most value in the marketplace, which one of these had a market demand. Remember, what's a market? A market is the specific people who have the specific problem that your expertise can solve. but also have the money and the motivation to have that problem solved. Because I had not done the research, I didn't know which one of these had the most value in the market. So I just kept changing my offer. I kept testing my expertise because I did not know the market value of my expertise. Do you know the market value of your expertise? Because if you don't, you're not going to know what to sell. All right. So the name of this presentation is the real reason why you're struggling to know what to sell. And the real reason is because you don't know the value of your expertise. Okay. You don't know the value of your expertise. And for some of you, you don't know your expertise at all. You're too close to your expertise to even know what it is. So you don't even, not only do you not know the value of it, you don't even know what your expertise is, let alone the value of it. Okay. So because I did not know the value of my expertise, because I didn't have clarity on my market, I kept testing different versions. Okay. Now, this was very problematic for me. It was very problematic. Okay. It was very problematic. And it was problematic because I wasn't doing market research. I was being reactive. What does that mean? So, again, I would create an offer, didn't do any market research. So, I didn't even know if I had a market for that offer. I did not know if there was a demand for that offer. I did not know who the specific people were who were having a specific problem that I built that offer for. I did not know if there was a specific group of people who had the money to pay for that offer. I didn't know if there was a specific group of people who were motivated to pay for that offer. All that is called market research. Because I didn't do market research, I was being reactive. So I would sell an offer once or twice, and the minute the offer stopped selling, my momentum would drop, panic would set in, and you know what I would do? I would create something new. I would create something new. And I couldn't say I was doing that because the market failed. I didn't know if the market had failed because I hadn't tested the market. Remember, I was being reactive. I was being reactive. And so I didn't have any way of knowing if my offer was scalable. I didn't know if I could leverage the offer and make more money because I didn't keep the offer on the table long enough to be able to test that. So I had no way to know if my market could even be scaled, if it would, or if my offer was scalable, right? So I never even could tell you if my offers failed or not. The minute the offer stopped selling, if I didn't make more than 2 or 3 sales, I started to panic. Okay. And that put me in scarcity mode. Okay. I was in scarcity mode. That's the cost of uncertainty. The hidden tax, the cost of uncertainty is that every offer changes your momentum, and you have to reset back to zero and start all over again. Because believe me when I tell you, I would get momentum when I would make a sale. I would be so excited. I would be so motivated. But the minute those sales slowed, instead of me trying to research to understand why the sales were slowing, I panicked. Okay. I was in fight or flight. Okay. My nervous system was very dysregulated. I was in scarcity mode, feast or famine mode. What does that mean? You make money, and then when you don't make money, you panic and you start over again. You launch something new. So, in essence, the cost of uncertainty was I lost momentum. And when I lost momentum, that means I had to start over from scratch again. I would hit my version of business rock bottom, right? My version of business rock bottom. Okay. I don't want that to happen to you all, which is why I'm sharing with you today. And when that happened, when I hit my version of business rock bottom, scarcity took over. Okay. Again, when revenue doesn't come, the survival brain activates. And that's what happened to me. Nervous system dysregulation, my survival brain, my amygdala activated. I was in fear mode, fight or flight. Okay. Fight or flight. All right. And so, what happens to me when I went into fight or flight, when I went into scarcity mode? I call it the scarcity loop. And you have probably experienced this too if you are out there trying to sell offers and not having clarity around what to sell. Scarcity creates a new business for you every time. That's what happened to me. Every time I went into fight or flight mode, every time, I was dealing with decision loops, and every time I was panicking, and I would experience that panic and that fear about not making money, and I was in feast or famine mode. You know what I would do? In essence, I was creating a new business. And I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. But let me tell you what happens when you don't get any sales and that fear kicks in, you're going to create a new offer because that's what I did. When the sales stopped, the fear took over. When the fear took over, I built a new offer. Now, every time you build a new offer, in essence, what you're doing is building a new business. You are. You're building a new business. I didn't realize that because in order to sell an offer, I had to have a website or a landing page. I had to have some kind of client attraction system, some kind of funnel. I had to create new messaging and new branding, new positioning. All right. That is a new business. And I went through this every 60 days for the first several years of my business. I can't believe I told y'all that. I did the math a while back. I estimate that I lost approximately $7 million in a decade because of this right here, because of the scarcity loop. There is no reason in the world why I should not be a millionaire. I have some of the best consulting assets in the market right now, but it took me over a decade to build this offer that I have today, to build my business, to scale it to where it is today. It's just happened in the last couple of years. I'm not one of these people who are going to get on here and lie to y'all and make y'all think that I'm a millionaire because I'm not. I am not a millionaire. Okay. Some months I made five figures in my business, and some months I made nothing. I would go several months and make absolutely nothing. And this went on for almost, well, over 10 years. I lost millions of dollars because I didn't understand what I'm trying to teach you right now. I wish that there had been somebody that I could have attracted into my life that was willing to teach me. I would have paid for it. But every time I paid for business coaching, they never taught me this part. Yeah, I've hired so many business coaches. No shade, but I've hired so many business coaches, and all they would teach me is the same generic business strategies. Create an offer, create a funnel, put it on an ad, create a lead magnet, create your email automations, the same stuff. I'm not saying that those things are not important, but what I needed before any of that, I needed to do market research. I needed to get crystal clear on whether there was a market for what I wanted to offer. I needed to get crystal clear on what my expertise was. I needed to get crystal clear on what value my expertise had, which of my expertise had the most value. I needed to get crystal clear on that before I did anything else, and nobody taught me that. And so for years and years and years, I was in the scarcity loop, creating new business models every 60 days. This went on for years, y'all. I'm about to cry. I'm about to cry. Let's talk about the wrong diagnosis because I thought that I had an offer problem, which is why I kept creating all those offers. I showed you all the different offers was creating: workshops, Bible studies, healing programs, life coaching school certification programs, all kind of certification programs, just leadership trainings, all kind of things I was creating. Those were all offers, and there were multiple offers inside of each of those fields, right? Not saying that any of those things were bad, but remember, I had not researched any of them. I hadn't researched the market on any of those offers or on any of that expertise. So I was just kind of um, building my business in the dark, playing Russian roulette with my business because I thought I had an offer problem. So I kept creating a new offer every 2 months. Okay. I kept building new offers, new websites, new landing pages, new email funnels, all the things, right? But that was not the problem. It was never an offer problem. But because I misdiagnosed my business because of guesswork, it cost me years of time and millions of dollars. And I don't want you to misdiagnose your business. I don't want you to build your business off of guesswork and panic. That's why today, as a leadership scientist, I offer diagnostics for my clients. I've spent years researching, all right, and creating evidence-based ways to help my clients get super clear on their expertise, get super clear on their intellectual capital. Let's talk about intellectual capital, okay? Because this is really important. When I say expertise, that's the short form way of saying intellectual capital. But I know that you can handle like the educated understanding of intellectual capital because this is really important. Harvard says that intellectual capital is a business's number one asset. Okay. And I told you at the top of the broadcast what an asset is. An asset is the expertise you have that someone will pay for, where your intellectual capital is your number one asset. So, what is your intellectual capital? Your intellectual capital is everything you know, everything that you have done, everything that you have experienced, right? Every result that you produced, right? That has potential power to generate revenue. That is intellectual capital. Everything you know, everything that you've done, all the results that you've gotten that have the potential to generate revenue is your intellectual capital. Now, your intellectual capital lives in three places. Write these down. Three places or three domains. Your intellectual capital lives in three domains. Number one, what's inside of you? Your intellectual capital lives inside of you. Okay, we call this human domain. For me, more specifically, I call it human-centered domain. What lives inside of you? So this includes your credentials. So your degrees, your education, your certifications, your trainings, right? Your lived experiences, the deep, specific understanding that you have in a specific area, right? That is your human capital. Okay. Your human capital. Number two, your intellectual capital also lives in how you work. This includes your processes, your methods, the way that you get people from problem to result. Even if you've never written these processes or methods down, I promise you that you have methods, you have processes, you have ways that you get people from problem to result. That's called your methodological capital. Okay. And then number three is the intellectual capital that you have. It lives in who trusts you. Who trusts you? Okay. So here we're talking about your reputation. What is it that you're known for? Your network, the people who seek out the results that you already produced for other people. Okay. This is called your relationship capital. Now, here's the thing. Your relationship capital and your methodological capital are the most valuable forms of intellectual capital that you have. Your most valuable assets live inside of who trusts you and how you work. But these are the two types of intellectual capital that most people overlook. Okay. It lives in your blind spot. Okay. It is invisible to most people. Why? Because you take it for granted. You've done it so much that you do not see it as an asset. So it's in your blind spot. So you're overlooking it. So when you're trying to figure out what to sell, you might consider your human capital. You might consider your degrees or your experience or where you've worked. You might consider your skills, but you that might not be the most valuable expertise that you have. That might not be where your most valuable capital lives, right? But if you don't know how to extract your relationship capital, or if you don't know how to extract your methodological capital, if you have not paid attention to the actual methods that you have and the processes that you go through to help people, then you won't even see that as an asset. And that might be more than likely where your most expensive intellectual capital lives. Most people have no knowledge of that at all. Okay. And this is why, again, you don't know what to sell. Now, let me tell you about my turning point. Okay. What I actually had was a clarity problem. And that's what most of you have. You have a clarity problem. Okay. Your expertise is real, your credentials are real. The methodology that you're using, even if you're not aware of it right now, even if you haven't written it down anywhere, it's real. Okay. The problem for me was I could not see the value in what I already possessed. Again, because nobody taught me how to extract my expertise, how to extract my methods, how to extract my relationship capital to see the value in it. I didn't know that it even existed. I didn't know that it was a thing. Y'all, can I be honest? I didn't know intellectual capital was a thing back in the day. Okay. So I had a clarity problem. And wherever the lack of clarity exists, you will always have resistance. You will always have hesitation. You will always have discouragement. You will always have burnout. Okay. I had all those things in my business. Okay. Because I didn't have clarity. I wasn't clear on the value of all of the capital, the intellectual capital that I had. I didn't know the value of it. I didn't know that I could charge $4,000 or $5,000 for leadership training at that time. I was charging $200 for it. I didn't know I could charge, $5,000 to teach a neuro leadership program at that time. I was teaching it for free. What do you know for free that has an actual value in the market? But again, because I had not done that market research, I didn't know. So my turning point came when I realized, oh, wait a minute, there's something called intellectual capital. I have assets that lives in three places, and I need to evaluate those three areas of my capital. I need to evaluate what's inside of me, how I work, and who trusts me to help them. When I got that clarity, that's when I got my breakthrough. That's when my turning point came. Does that make sense? And that's when your turning point is going to come too. When you start to see that you have intellectual capital living in those three domains that you've never evaluated, that you've never extracted, that you've never organized, you're going to get your turning point too. I was asking the wrong question the whole time. And most of you are asking the wrong question because this is not about what I should sell. It sounds like a good question, but it's not the right question. Okay. I was asking the wrong question for that entire 10-year stretch of time, which is why my business was suffering so bad. And most professionals are asking the wrong question. What I should sell is the wrong question. Okay. There's a better question to ask. Okay. The better question to ask is what expertise has market value? What expertise has market value? Now, I want to tell y'all something. You're starting at the wrong point. You're starting at the offer when you need to start at the asset. All right. The asset, the expertise that you have that someone will pay for. You have to start right there. What expertise do you have that someone will pay for? What expertise has market value? Remember, what is a market? A market is the specific people who have the specific problem that our expertise can solve. And those specific people have the money and the motivation to pay you to solve that problem. What you have to figure out is what expertise has market value. And then once you figure that out, which of those expertise has the highest market value? That is where you must start. You have to start with the asset not the offer. Watch this. You build the offer based on your asset. God have mercy. You build your offer based on the expertise that has market value. Once you figure out what expertise has market value, then you build an offer. That offer is going to pay you. Why? Because now we know that the offer that's built around the expertise that has market value is what people are actively looking for right now. Now, let's talk about market research really quick, okay? We have to do some market research because how are we going to know what expertise has market value? Well, one way is you have to do it through market research. Okay. I'm going to tell you how to do it real quick. All right. What is market research? First of all, it is the process of finding out what a specific group of people will actually pay for before you build anything. The mistake that you're making is you're going through all this work, all of this effort, all of this energy that you're wasting, all of this time that you're wasting, building out an offer, building a sales page, building a website, building an email funnel, creating content, doing all these things, and you have not even tested to see, is there a group of people who want this offer? Okay. Market research answers three questions. Number one, who has the problem? How badly do they want to solve the problem? And what have they already done and tried and failed at? Most people skip this step, and this is why you don't know what to sell. Okay. Nobody taught us that our expertise needs to be validated against a market before it becomes an offer. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. Okay. Your expertise needs to be validated against a market before it becomes an offer. You have to find out if there is enough people, at least 10,000 people, is what we say, minimum, who have the specific problem that your expertise will solve. And if there's enough people, at least 10,000 of those people who are motivated and have the money to pay you to solve that specific problem. You have to validate your expertise before you build the offer. Because if you can validate it, now you know that it's going to sell. Once you can validate your offer, once you can validate your expertise, now you know that your offer will pay you. Now you know that it will sell. When you put it in front of a market that has been validated, you know that it's going to sell. I hope this is helping somebody today. I hope this is helping somebody today. Okay. Let's talk about the visibility gap real quick. The expertise visibility gap. Because here's what a lot of y'all cannot see. Okay. You cannot see where your value rests. You're so focused on degrees and certifications. You want to get more degrees, more certifications, more initials behind your name because you think that is where value lives. That's what the workplace taught us. That's what the workforce taught us. That's what corporate taught us. Okay. So the only place that you find value in yourself is your degrees and your certifications and your job titles. That's why you're stuck. Okay. You need to understand that the true value is in your experience, is in your knowledge, it's in your proprietary methods, how you help people solve their problems. It's in your insight, the frameworks that you're able to build around all of your experience, around all of your knowledge, around all of your methods. It is in your leadership intelligence. It's in your ability to recognize patterns. Okay. If you can go to an organization and show them, hey, I have recognized there are certain patterns in your organization, and these patterns is what's creating your problem. And I have a proprietary method, a proprietary way to fix this for you in record time, they're going to buy that offer from you. So I promise you, if you can get your eyes, if you can take your focus off of degrees and certifications and all that stuff and needing more knowledge and focus on what you already have, the knowledge you already have, the experience you already have, the proprietary way of doing things that you already have, that is where the value is. So right now, you have a visibility gap. You can't see it. You cannot see the value is in the expertise that you already have. The gap is if you can see the value in what you already have, we can close the expertise gap. We can close the visibility gap. Okay. And you'll stop focusing on trying to go get more degrees, more certifications, and you'll focus on excavating the value in what you already have. Here's the thing, plain and simple. Oh, God, I got to go back. You cannot monetize value that you cannot see. It's not going to happen. You cannot monetize. You cannot monetize value that you cannot see. And most of you, the reason why you haven't monetized your expertise is because you don't see the value in it yet. And as long as you don't see the value in your experience, as long as you don't see the value in your method and your insight and your intelligence, the way that you do things, the way that you think, as long as you don't see value in the way that you solve problems in your own methodologies, as long as you don't see the value in any of that, you can't monetize it because it's blind to you. You're in a blind spot. Your expertise is in a blind spot. You don't see the value. There is no way that you're going to ever be able to monetize it. Okay. You have to be able to see it first. Okay. So here's the solution. Here's the solution architecture that I created for y'all. Okay. All right. You have to be able to see the value in your expertise. So here's what changes everything. Okay. It's 4 things. Write these down or screenshot this. I'm sorry, it's 5 things. Okay. This is the solution architecture. Number 1, you have to inventory all 3 domains of your expertise. Okay. Remember, I told you it's human intellectual capital, credentials, experience, degrees, trainings. Okay. But there's also methodological capital, which is your methods, your process, how you do things, how you get a person from where they are to where they want to be, how you help them solve their problem. That's called your method capital. You have to inventory that. You also have your relationship capital, your network, the people who already trust you, the folks that you've already helped, the people who are seeking you out because you helped somebody else. You have to inventory all domains of your expertise. That's the first step in the solution architecture. Step number 2 in the solution architecture, you have to isolate the part of your expertise that holds market value and isolate what does not. Okay. So you have to be able to identify which of your expertise, what part of your expertise actually holds market value and isolate that over here to itself, and then take the part that doesn't hold market value and isolate that over here to itself. In fact, you can just tuck that to the side. You're going to focus on the expertise that holds market value. The third step in the solution architecture is organization. You are going to now organize all of that expertise. Once you decide, once you know which parts of your expertise holds market value, you're going to start the organization process. You're going to build a signature framework, a signature methodology around the part of your expertise that holds value. Notice we haven't built an offer yet. We haven't built an offer yet. The offer doesn't come yet. Okay. The third step in the solution architecture is to build a signature framework around the part of your expertise that holds market value. Okay. Market value means we have researched and we know that there is a group of people who have a specific problem and they have the money, the motivation and the money to pay me for it. We did our research. We know that our expertise has market value. And so guess what? We're now going to create a signature framework around that market value expertise. This is so good. Step number four in the solution architecture is positioning. Okay. You have to be able to translate that value to market language. You got to be able to say it the way that your market is saying it to themselves. You got to get inside their thoughts, get inside their head, get inside their emotions, get inside their conversation, get inside their pain point, get inside their struggle, get inside their challenges. What are they saying? How are they talking about this pain point, this specific problem that you now know that they're having and are willing to pay for? How are they talking about it? Okay. That's called positioning. And you're going to put that exact language in front of them, so that it becomes easy for them to say yes to your offer. Step number five, you are going to then create an irresistible offer built from the value that you've identified. See, this is what's going to trip some of you all up. Start positioning before you even build the offer. Just start talking about the problem. Just start talking about your framework. Start talking about this specialized signature framework that you have developed for their specific problem, and talk about it in the same way that they talk about it. Okay. Once you do that, they are going to start talking to you about how you can help them. On the background, you're going to be building out an offer that has specific value. Okay. And then by the time you present this offer, because it's going to be irresistible, they are going to say yes to your offer. Now, I just gave you all the framework there for the solution architecture. This isn't being taught anywhere. This is a part of my framework, the solution architecture. The solution architecture framework changes everything. The solution architecture method is what I call it, SAM. Okay. SAM changes everything for you. Okay. Let's talk about the transformation. Remember, this is my story. These are all the things that I had to figure out for those 10 years that I was just losing millions of dollars in my business because I changed my offer every 60 days because I didn't have clarity. Once I got clarity, I was able to take my business to the next level in scaling it. If you want to transform and take yourself from not having clarity, not knowing what to sell, I want you to imagine what happens with clarity. I want you to imagine identifying your specific expertise that has market value. I want you to imagine that you've gone through the process and you've mapped out all of your intellectual capital across all three domains, and you've cataloged it, organized it. You feel how the clarity is already starting to take place, because now you've got all your intellectual capital mapped out and you're able to start pulling out the ones that have value, marketplace value, right? I want you to then imagine what happens when you've gone through the process of identifying revenue ready expertise. In other words, your market value has now been identified. You got the expertise identified in step one. Okay. You're no longer struggling to try to understand what your expertise is. You got that figured out in step one. Step two, now you've got the market value of that expertise identified. So now you have revenue ready expertise. You've isolated that from all the other expertise that you have, which means you can neatly tuck away the rest of your expertise. You can move it out of your sight, move it away. It's all wonderful, but now you've isolated the expertise that actually has market value. So now you have revenue ready expertise. So you're getting closer to knowing exactly what to sell. All right. Next, I want you to imagine that you have position clarity. You now have market facing language defined. You know how to talk about the specific problem that you have or that your ideal client is having. You know how to talk about the specific problem and pain point that your market is having. And you talk about it in the same way that they talk about it. You use the same language that they use, the same words that they use, the same experiences that they're having. You talk about those. That's called market facing language. What does that do? That's building a relationship of trust between you and your market. You are becoming the expert. So when they are ready to buy, they are going to come to you. You're not using generic language. You're not asking ChatGPT to give you some generic marketing language. You have taken the time to understand their pain points and how they talk about it. And you're going to mirror back their specific language to them. And they're going to say, oh my God, she's talking directly to me. How does she know? Okay. Positioning. Imagine what happens when the positioning clears up. You have positioning clarity and you know exactly how to talk to your market. Okay. And then I want you to imagine what happens when strategic direction gets activated. When your offer architecture is now ready to build, you now are ready to build an offer because you've identified your expertise, you've identified the market value of that expertise. You now have market facing language so you know how to talk to your market. And now you're ready to architect an offer, one that pays. I want you to imagine what that feels like. I want you to, wherever you see this, put it in the chat, put it in the comment section. How is your life going to be changed? How will your life, how will your business be impacted when all four of these areas have been confirmed and activated for you? I want to talk to you about why I created the intellectual capital snapshot. Okay. This is the tool that I wish existed when I was changing my offer every 2 months. I built for y'all what I wish I had 14 years ago. I spent 10 years suffering, suffering in my business. When I could have been making millions of dollars, I suffered in my business. I was so discouraged, so stressed out, so burnt out. Do y'all know that just a few years ago, I shut my entire business down for over a year because I just had gave up on it. I was so exhausted, so burned out. I had so much business fatigue, so much decision fatigue. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I lost so much money that year. Like I almost went under. Can y'all handle the truth? I almost lost everything. I wish I had had the intellectual capital snapshot, but I have it now. I built it for y'all because I don't want any other woman to suffer. We are already experiencing a crisis, an economic crisis right now in America. 600,000 people out of work. Most of those are women. 300,000 Black women lost their jobs in 2025, were pushed out of the workforce, and nobody cares. This country has shown us who they are, and we need to believe them. What is our response to the economic crisis? What is our response to this administration? What is our response to the economy right now? Well, my response was I'm going to do everything in my power to help more women gain control of their finances, of their revenue, of their well-being and their peace. So I built the intellectual capital snapshot from research, my own lived experience, and what the research said about women who want to have financial security, who want to have time freedom, who want to have creativity freedom, who want to have peace and well-being in their careers, right? I designed the intellectual capital snapshot for brilliant, credentialed professional, high-performing women who cannot yet see the value that they carry because it's living in their blind spot, because they've done it for so long that they've taken it for granted, that nobody ever taught them in corporate or in the workforce that their value, that their expertise had value. Nobody ever explained to you, nobody took the time to show you, to help you understand that you're the one making corporations millions and millions of dollars. You're the one that's keeping that organization afloat. You're the one that's keeping your organization successful. It's your intellectual capital across those three domains that's running your own organization, the one that you clock in at every single day. And I created the intellectual capital snapshot to show you the value that you carry. Okay. So before you build another offer, like I used to do, okay, before you build another offer, before you put anything else in the marketplace, before you give up on yourself, before you give up on that idea, I want you to first identify the asset. Because, like I told you earlier, the offer is not where you start. The asset is where you start. And what is the asset? The expertise that you have that a market is willing to pay you for. Okay. I need you to identify that asset. It may be more than one, but you need to identify your assets, and your assets live in your intellectual capital. Your assets live in your intellectual capital, and I need you to identify that. So if you're not sure what to sell, and if you're watching this video, it's because you're not sure what to sell, right? If you're not sure what to sell, I created a free diagnostic tool for you, okay? To take the guesswork out, to take the guesswork out. Okay, you have to start right here. This is where you start. Okay, I'm going to answer that age-old question. Where do I start? Right here at the intellectual capital snapshot. Okay, this tool is going to help you identify the expertise that holds market value. Okay, this is a diagnostic grade tool. It's not generic. Okay, it's built on my brand, my expertise, my own intellectual capital. It's built on my research. Okay. So again, you can't sell what you can't see. And right now, you're doing what I was doing. You're guessing. You're trying to guess what to sell. You're playing Russian roulette. For you and your business is trial and error. You're going to try something for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and see how it works. You might get a couple of sales, and then you're going to lose momentum. You're either going to quit altogether, or you're going to start over with a brand new offer like I was doing every 60 days, right? Guessing what to offer, guessing what to charge, guessing who to sell it to, trying to understand, why it's not selling. You're doing all that guessing when you should know. And the only way to know is if you use a diagnostic tool that can extract the actual data that you need, right? And so the snapshot stops the guesswork, and it shows you exactly what part of your expertise the market will actually pay for. So you know exactly what offer to build with evidence and data, not panic and not guesswork. Okay. I want you to build offers based on evidence and data, not panic and not guesswork. And the only way in the world for you to collapse the time that it takes to try to guess what to figure out to sell is to have a diagnostic tool like the intellectual capital snapshot that will help you to identify exactly what you should sell based on the expertise that has market value. Okay, it's free. You can go to offerthatpays.com/IC hyphen snapshot. I'll also put the link in the description box below, and wherever else you see this video, you will see the link. Offerthatpays.com/IC Is that backslash or forward slash? I always forget. offerthatpays.com/IC hyphen snapshot. If you go to that site, you will see the free diagnostic tool right there. It's not going to cost you anything. And you're going to get this done in like under 2 minutes. It's going to ask you three specific questions, one for each of those three domains that I told you that your intellectual capital lives in: your human domain, your method domain, your relationship domain. Okay. Now it's a snapshot. And at the end of this snapshot, you'll have an opportunity to purchase the full intellectual capital extraction system for only $17. It's worth hundreds, but we're selling it for $17 right now because why? Because I want to help as many women as possible get started today the right way so that you can stop wasting time and losing money like I did. Okay. So go to offerthatpays.com, okay, forward slash, whatever it is, backslash IC hyphen snapshot. Or you can just go to you can go to offerthatpays.com and you'll also see the button right on the website that'll take you to the diagnostic, okay? I'm really excited about helping women close the wealth gap that exists right now, all right? And I need you to understand that there is a market for your expertise. And once you understand what that expertise is, you will have an offer that sells. You'll know exactly what offer to sell. You'll know exactly what to sell. All right. This is Dr. Vanessa R. Brooks. Thank you so much for being here. Leave me a comment and tell me what value you got from this. And also ask any questions that you have. And also let me know what other content I can create for you all. Okay. This was amazing today. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you the next time. This is Leadership Rewired. If you have not done so, make sure that you comment, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you the next time.